My name is Aki Marceau, and I'm with Elemental Accelerator, and we help startups change the world one community at a time. So every year, we choose 12 to 15 companies, and they're actively deploying technologies and transforming communities in energy, transportation, water, and agriculture, and much, much more. I'd like to thank GreenBiz, the State Energy Office, and everyone for hosting this wonderful conference this year, and all of you who are really the great leaders doing the hard work leading us to a clean energy transformation. And so I'd like to talk about 3 points today. First, in order for us to reach our clean energy goals, we really need to be much more comfortable with innovation. Second, innovation isn't always as cost prohibitive as we think, and it can actually be quite competitive with research and much more impactful. And third, innovation doesn't always have a really clear end goal or output, and that's okay. We can be okay with that because through that unknown space, there's actually great opportunity. So, research is a really important part of our pipeline, and it's really important in the ecosystem, but it's also an incredibly safe space to be in. So it's not that challenging or that controversial, let's say, to test a technology. You can test a technology in a vacuum and add one variable and test your hypothesis, and there's not really anything too controversial about that. And same with an already commercialized business. There's an existing revenue model in place, and you're really just focused on finding out how to increase your profit margins. And innovation is somewhere in between that space. So the questions that you ask start to change fundamentally. So take Connector, for example. Connector is a technology and a company that has a collar that you stick onto a utility meter. And that allows people to connect their PV system and distributed energy systems like electric vehicles and even batteries into that collar, and it allows the utility to have visibility into their system. So right now, as we know, in the middle of the day, solar PV is actually one of the biggest power generators on the island of Oahu. But interestingly, the utility actually doesn't have much visibility into that space. And so what Connector could do is they could just test the technology day in and day out to no end and try and make it sleeker and better and faster and much more efficient, or they can actually start to deploy it. And the questions that you ask really change because you start to ask, once you're deploying it and incorporating it into a community, you're asking, who is the customer? What about permitting? How do I deal with privacy and cybersecurity issues? And that makes it a little bit more sticky and challenging, and you start to get different stakeholders involved, and that's where innovation is. And we're really trying to push the community, and we're trying to push our companies to get into that place where we're not just focused on research, and we're actually going into answering those and asking those really challenging questions. So second, I'd like to talk about the fact that innovation isn't that much more expensive than research. So we just recently finished our most recent application round, and over the last year, we were talking to over 800 companies. And right now, we're currently down selecting these companies to about 12 to 15, which will be our next cohort. And half of those will actually be deploying technologies within Hawaii and Asia Pacific. Now, what we're really looking for and what we're really finding is that these companies are competing with an incumbent solution. So let's take the Oracles of the world. So these are technologies that are doing some things really well, some things probably the same amount of things not so well, and they're at a really high price point. The technologies that we're looking for are at the same cost point as research, and research, again, is very, very important, but they have a much greater impact because they're actually engaging with customers. And we have very, time is of the essence in Hawaii because we have our aggressive clean energy goals, and so we need to start deploying these technologies in order to get there. And one of the solutions is a company called Swiftly. Swiftly allows transportation agencies and transit agencies to have better analytics and visualize their systems better. And so they can come in at a much lower price point, and instead of just looking at their data in a lab, let's say, they're actually deploying with transit agencies all over the world and impacting passengers, millions of passengers every single day. So the last point I'd love to touch on is the fact that there's actually not a clear end goal with innovation and a clear output, and that's okay. One of the interesting things about our companies is that it's not uncommon for them to pivot their business model and actually pivot their technology over time. And I know it's scary from a policy perspective or even a technology perspective to throw money at something and not really know what the end product is going to be, but that's where the unknown is where we can really see, the technologies scale really aggressively. And so a great mentor of the Elemental Accelerator and a great mentor of mine and a wonderful business leader in Hawaii has really made that connection for us between success and serendipity. And serendipity never happens if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I'd really love to challenge you and encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and step into the spaces where there's a lot of challenging discussions and there's really sticky kind of discussions and questions that need to be answered, and step into the space where technology meets community. And that space is innovation. Thank you, and aloha.